The title change could be the most hallowed part of wrestling. If you're winning a belt, you're going to feel awesome, and even though it is predetermined sports, losing one hurts. It's still real to me, damn it. WWE, given their history, has often gone totally nuts with these two, right down to hot potatoing some championships to the point of madness. And I tell you, my friends, sometimes it's just a mistake. So who has fallen foul to such errors? Well, I am Simon Miller, and please do hit that subscribe button. It'll make you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. Let's find out. Number 15, Vince McMahon makes himself the WWF champion. Again, simply due to the law of averages, this was always going to happen. The Attitude Era and the Monday Night War was so insane on both sides, they were happy to try anything if it popped a rating, even if it meant their reasons were wrong. That means they won for a week. You have no idea how important it was to the WWF and WCW. So therefore, on the 16th of September 1999 episode of SmackDown, Vince McMahon, owner and CEO, and not a wrestler, beat Triple H for the World Wrestling Federation title. It's kind of incredible. Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin was involved, and this was strange in hindsight. McMahon was a babyface at the time, and while Stone Cold still hated him, he hated Triple H more. Therefore, he threw Vince over the game because lol, suppose it was pretty funny, until you realized what it meant. Of course, McMahon relinquished it a week later because this was really done just for a TV number, and yep, Triple H won it back during the six-pack challenge match at the Unforgiven pay-per-view. So we just did it for the sake of doing it, and that's why it backfired. You can't change a title like this for ratings alone. Fans don't like it, especially when it's the promoter winning the thing. It just feels very silly. It also diminished the title scene a little bit, but hey, WWF won that game, so I suppose it was fine. It also wasn't. I mean, forums weren't as big as they are today, but they still existed, and much like now, people lost their minds. I mean, of course they did. Vince McMahon for 7 days was the WWF champion. Number 14, Apollo Crews is doomed. Apollo Crews winning the Intercontinental title was wonderful. If anybody deserved a proper push, it was him. I mean, say what you want about the guy, but he was never given a proper shot. You can't sink if you're not allowed to swim first. So when he won the big belt against Big E at WrestleMania 37, it felt exciting. The fact that he and Big E could feud over this as well felt promising. I mean, if they were given enough room, they could have been the Gunther before Gunther, rehabbing a championship and finally making it feel good again. But nope, instead Vince McMahon came up with one of the worst gimmicks of modern times. It was already difficult as Apollo had been out with General Aziz and told us he was now a Nigerian king. I'm not joking, that's what we did, and Crews even had to put on an accent. In case you don't know, this was 2021. It was also booked terribly as the IC title wasn't defended on a pay-per-view for 4 months, when Apollo randomly lost it to Shinsuke Nakamura on SmackDown. So what were we really doing apart from continuing to marginalize the IC title? It begged the question why we even bothered. Poor Apollo Crews couldn't even get his run over either because we were all scratching our heads as to what was happening. Then got even worse too. Turned out Crews didn't want to do this at all, and it was forced upon him. So yeah, don't do that. Ruined it all. And look, is anybody talking about it today apart from me? No? There's a reason for it. Number 13, Edge and Chris Jericho go for 5 seconds. The Bash, which is an awful name for a pay-per-view, but on the 2009 version, Chris Jericho and Edge won the brand new Unified Tag Team Championships. They were a Canadian super duo. They beat the Colognes and Legacy, and given their star power, this felt like WWE was finally going to go big with the tag division. Only took like 29 years. Of course, we were wrong. We're always flipping wrong. Now, to be fair, this was life getting in the way because Edge suffered an Achilles injury, so Jericho then decided he would team with The Big Show. That's when they called themselves Jerry Show, and they did that thing when they merged their themes together. That is something I do not like. It gives me nightmares. Now, actually, they were pretty good as a team, but they were fighting an uphill battle. Fans wanted to see the superstar team of Chris and Edge, and instead we got that for like 3 weeks when months worth of plans blew up in WWE's face. I mean, they only worked a trio of matches, one of which was the title win, and what's worse, number 3 in that run was against CM Punk and Jeff Hardy. That is a massive team as well, and if that was the plan, I tell you, what a shame this would have ruled. Number 12, the Unholy Union have a hometown moment. In hindsight, this is even sadder because why didn't we just give things a go? Because the idea was nice. At Clash of the Castle 2, local heroes Alba Fire and Isla Dawn won the Women's Tag Team Championships from Bianca Belair and Shayna Cargill as Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark looked on. Crowd went nuts because of course they did. Glasgow, Scotland was happy for their brethren. The issue was WWE did that thing they often do with the women's tag team titles, which was have them vanish off TV right afterwards. Isla and Alba didn't get to stamp themselves on these belts at all, and come August, only 2 months later, they dropped them back to Bianca and Jade, and in the meantime, honestly, they did nothing. They were meant to be witches, so promised to curse any potential challengers, but instead did their own disappearing act. But the moment of this night was sullied because it was done just to do it. I guess that is fine, it was really cool, but we could have used this as a proper building block and we just didn't. Gonna say those 3 words again. It is such a shame. Number 11, Debra wins a title by losing. Good old wrestling, because it can always be relied upon to come up with something bizarre. We go all the way back to the 10th of May 1999 Raw, when Debra won the women's title from Sable. The issue was, technically she lost. Given the time frame, this was an evening gown match and yeah, not good. If you don't know, the rules are having to strip your opponent down to her underwear, and even though Sable did that, then Commissioner Shawn Michaels walked out and said, well, Debra is the real winner because we got to see her without her clothes. This was so bad. I mean, it was dreadful, to be honest. It was official, however, and the silly part is that Debra wasn't even really a wrestler, was just thrown into this position, and a month later she dropped the belt to Ivory in a match that went about 2 minutes tops. It sort of summed up how the WWF saw women's wrestling in the late 90s. It was mad to take the thing off Sable too, because say what you want, she was a huge draw. Helped ratings in an era where they were everything. I mean, somebody should have helped her learn the finer details, but still. Over is over. No one actually looks back on this with glee, though. It's just bad. Really, really bad. Number 10, WWE belts a 10-year-old kid. So this one, my friends, did not backfire. I will fight you on this. Nicholas becoming one half of the WWE Tag Team Champions at WrestleMania 34 was wonderful. Proper goofy wrestling for life, and Braun Strowman sold this like he conquered the world. I loved it. The whole thing was a farce anyway, because Braun decided he would fight the Bar for the gold by himself when he was told, no, you dingus, you have to have a partner. So before the match, he literally went into the crowd and chose a child. I mean, surely that's a crime. Sheamus and Cesaro totally understood the assignment too and made this even more fun, and it got better on Raw. Nick relinquished his title because he had to go back to school. And yes, it's stupid, silly even, ridiculous, but life is hard, man. Give me more of this when the time is right. Still makes me laugh out loud. In defense of it too, the WWE wasn't treating the tag belts as anything serious back then anyway. Vince McMahon clearly wasn't into the division, and while that wasn't good, if you're gonna be entertaining, I'll take it. Just long-term storytelling, really. One day Nick will return for revenge. He can have a banger against Sheamus. Number 9, Alberto Del Rio ends the summer of Punk. So this was really bad and was an early sneak peek that WWE management and the crowd were not on the same page. It felt like we were actively booking against what they wanted. During the summer of 2011 though, CM Punk had dropped his pipe bomb and won the WWE title against John Cena at Money in the Bank. The noise was justified, and even though he was brought back way too early, the story was good. It also meant Punk versus Cena at SummerSlam. Everybody loved that. A forever feud. Punk eventually beat the GOAT too, when yes, Alberto Del Rio ran down and cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, and he was successful. Meaning at the end of the night, CM Punk was beltless, and Del Rio wasn't. Trust me, I tell ya, nobody wanted this. This was also after the Kevin Nash fiasco, which really did muddy the waters even more. Still can't believe this is what we chose to do with Punk, and it must tie into why he got pissed off eventually. It was like anti-booking. If he wasn't as over as he was, who knows where it ends. Go back and try and figure out the CM Triple H Nash story too. It's proper 2 + 2 = potato stuff. I would say WWE dropped the ball here. It should have been so easy, and instead the audience wasn't into any of it. And all you can say is whoops. Number 8, Rocky sucks with the IC title. I mean, knowing what we know now, of course The Rock should have been pushed hard. Did alright, didn't he? The problem was, when he was Rocky Maivia in February 1997 winning the Intercontinental title, well, it was just way too soon. Fans didn't want this. They didn't even know who the guy was. Vince McMahon then made it worse because he told Dwayne Johnson to smile through all this, and while it may have worked in the 80s, this was no longer that time. So when he randomly beat Triple H on a Thursday Raw of all things for that championship, fans felt like he was being pushed down their throats. It led to the now infamous Die Rocky Die and Rocky Sucks chant, so by April he dropped his title to Owen Hart. Sounds a little bit terrible to say, but a knee injury Rocky suffered was actually a benefit because it meant we had time to think about this, and yep, He was brought back as a heel, and the rest is history. At one point, McMahon was just going to Roman Reigns this guy because he knew best, and it's why the Roman thing was so mad to begin with. Vince had a template 18 years prior, and he just ignored it with the big dog. Surprise, surprise, when Reigns finally went bad guy, the same thing happened. But yeah, the crowd did not like Maivia being the Intercontinental Champion. Although it did work out long term, he is now one of the biggest celebrities in the world. Number 7, Charlotte Flair's weird babyface turn. SummerSlam 2018. Charlotte Flair bested both Becky Lynch and Carmella and won the old SmackDown Women's title. It was meant to underline her big babyface run, but you know what happened. The fans decided no. This wasn't anything to do with Flair either, but WWE also used this period to make Becky Lynch a heel, and nobody bought that. The foundations of her villainy was that the fans never supported her, and that was so outlandish nobody took it seriously. Everybody had always wanted Becky to get more opportunities. Fans were so annoyed WWE didn't do this, they used this moment to rebel. You can get Lynch to say whatever you want, but we're going to cheer her and tell her she rocks. Whoops. It all led to Becky becoming the man, and by proxy, Flair had to go heel. So I don't think there was a mad revolt that Charlotte won the title, but the aftermath was so ridiculous that, yeah, it backfired badly. It created a chain of events WWE did not want. Turns out it was the right place and right time, however, because Lynch knew what to do. She used all of this to become the biggest star in WWE and still has that magic today. Rode the wave and then some, so goes to show, maybe sometimes you should listen to the audience. They could just be telling you what you need to know anyway. Number 6, Kane beats Steve Austin. So I'm not sure if this one entirely backfired, to be honest. Others have told me I'm wrong. But Kane beating Steve Austin in the first blood match of the 1998 King of the Ring was done for one reason: ratings. This period was all about Nitro versus Raw, so Vince McMahon decided a good way to swing the numbers in his direction for a week was to dethrone Stone Cold at the pay-per-view and then do the rematch 24 hours later. Austin was so damn over he could take it, and yeah, all of this was accurate. Steve whooped Kane's ass on that night to get his title back, and it caused quite a stir. I think the backfired part came with the Big Red Machine himself. He was so dominant in this period, seeing him lose the WWF Championship within a day, well, it wasn't great for his allure. He was fine because of course he went on to have a 20-year run basically, but there is a vibe of sacrificing the gimmick in the sake of kicking WCW's butt. Nowadays, people even forget the title match happened on that pay-per-view, given it was also the night of the Hell in a Cell contest between The Undertaker and Mankind. Mick Foley still ran out during that Austin main event too, and man, we should talk about that more. It's insane, but what a warrior he was. I mean, you literally couldn't stop him. Number 5, Shawn Michaels makes a mistake. February 1997. Monday Night Raw happened in Germany of all places, and it was a mad time for the WWF, but it did see Owen Hart and the British Bulldog go at it for the new European title. The match was great and Davey Boy Smith won. It was a lovely moment. Jump forward to September and WWF were now running pay-per-views in the UK, including the one-night-only event. Given the crowd, Bulldog was pitted against Shawn Michaels with the European belt on the line, and because this was all agreed ahead of time, it was going to be Davey Boy's night. Therefore, he dedicated the match to his sister, who was dying of cancer. That's true as well. Of course, as we'd soon learn, the Heartbreak Kid had gone to Vince McMahon and got the finish changed. This was really bad. He didn't need the title anyway because he was a superstar by this point, and it was mostly done to cause a fuss. I mean, his next defense for this championship was a joke contest with Triple H. That is funny, but less so when you walk the entire timeline. This was wrestling politics gone wrong. It didn't serve anyone. It hurt Bulldog as well just because as a babyface you can't promise things and then not follow through. Kids especially get upset. They believed in you. It wasn't his fault when the WWF was just letting the inmates run the asylum, but a bad move is a bad move. Number 4, Goldberg KO's KO. This was such an error, and the way it was done. It was so lame, and I love Bill Goldberg, but bad is bad. It all kicked off after Billy was involved in the WWE 2K video game, and because the fans loved it so much, it led to an actual 2016 Survivor Series match against Brock Lesnar. That ruled. We did everything right. It also rehabbed Goldberg as his first WWE run was terrible, and Vince McMahon must have loved it. Come Fastlane 2017, Goldberg was booked in a world title match with Kevin Owens. How the flub were we going to get out of this? Well, as Kevin had just fallen out with best friend Chris Jericho, Jericho returned to WWE and caused a distraction, allowing Bill to spear Owens, and honestly, it was over in 22 seconds 22. Now, I do get it as well, it's Goldberg, but nobody wanted to see Kevin Owens, of all people, get murked like this. It was mostly due to the fact Vince McMahon wanted Brock vs. Goldberg 3 at WrestleMania 33, and yeah, that match ruled, but it would have ruled without a belt too. Owens and Jericho also got put in the second match, which was not ideal. So yeah, all of this was bad, and not what the audience wanted at the time. Nowadays, I think we can all agree Kevin and Chris for a championship at that Mania would have been way better, and helped both of them. Instead, we sort of left them in no man's land, and they got blamed by management too. I mean, no wonder soon after Chris Jericho left. Number 3, Goldberg squashes the Fiend for the Universal title again, and really it's a copy and paste job. I do want to point out I don't blame Goldberg for this. Unless you're Bryan Danielson, nobody says no to winning in wrestling, but it was just the same mistake 2 years later, and because, Vince McMahon wanted Bill versus Roman at Mania. Oops, we did it again. Brittany was right. Bray Wyatt also deserved a proper title run, especially after the debacle that was Hell in a Cell a few months before this. That match was such a disaster we had to turn Seth Rollins heel, and while the Fiend Championship reign was meant to be a make good, he then lost it on the 27th of February 2020. He only won the thing on October 31st. I suppose you could argue that's a decent amount of time, but what hurt, after ruining Bray Wyatt Eater of Worlds by never allowing him to have any momentum, we went and did the same thing with the Fiend. He was meant to be a spooky wookie magician, and this just ended that. He was wrecked in short order, before going on to be a strange man as opposed to a threat. Fans didn't like it either, which again was the main issue. Only one human wanted this, and pushing Wyatt aside for the 56th time was frustrating. This also came a year after the Goldberg-Undertaker match, which did not help. It was a bad time for WWE. Number 2, Jinder Mahal wins the WWE title. We can talk about this for days because it was a misstep, but not for the obvious reason. Jinder Mahal could have won the WWE title. Why the flub not? Wrestling never ends, so doing new things here and there is really important. The clue is right there, though. It's a forever sport that has weekly television, so you don't need to rush. Somebody forgot that with Jinder, and he went from an opening match dude to the champion in 3 weeks. It was incredible to see. This ties into the Backfired part because the audience just did not accept it. Nobody could get their head around Mahal being thrown into this spot from nowhere, even more so as a story could have easily been worked in that would have served all masters. He only held it for 170 days, and the whole time people were talking about how bizarre this was, even though Mahal did update his presentation and do a lot of fun work with the Bollywood boys. A Shinsuke Nakamura feud was also tiptoeing into offensive territory, and eventually Vince McMahon just gave up. The rumour was he did this to try and make inroads with the Indian market, but there's far better ways than this. Namely, why don't you allow Mahal to become a bigger star in the first place? It would have been more than fine. He also lost the belt from nowhere, which did not help. It was like we didn't actually want this to work at all. Number 1, Sergeant Slaughter is not the guy. At this time, when he was the All-American Army dude, there was certainly room to make him the champion, but in 1991, sheesh, the WWF went crazy and made him a Gulf War sympathizer in the middle of the Gulf War. I still can't get over this. Wrestling is meant to be a distraction. He was also the guy to defeat the Ultimate Warrior, who has been crowned as the new face of WWE following WrestleMania 6. Yeah, that wasn't working either. It's why we did all of the above, so at Mania 7 we could get the title back on Hulk Hogan, but seeing Sarge lean into an actual conflict was just distasteful. Fans didn't like it either, which is why the pay-per-view moved from the LA Memorial Coliseum to a sports center down the road. The WWF just could not generate interest in this. It made no sense either, as Slaughter was less over the Warrior at this point, because the audience couldn't believe this was a path we'd chosen to take. It all felt like a massive reset as opposed to Vince McMahon believing in his new vision, something he'd do again at WrestleMania 9. We all know what happened then. Even if we tried to find another face to run the place, I think that would have been way preferred. This was not good, and no wonder Sarge didn't want to do this. If you sum it all up, it was a terrible idea. Know of any other title changes that instantly backfired? Maybe on numerous people? Let us know in the comments below. Before you like the video, share the video and subscribe, and just interact with this video as much as you can. You can also click the video on the screen to get even more wrestling content in your life. But otherwise, my friends, take care of yourself, and I will talk to you again on the next one.